Hello and welcome to the second Make It Super Assembly live from Ashfield Boys High School in Belfast. Make It is the BBC campaign that helps you make sense of the world of work and help you be the best you can be. As well as Ashfield Boys School, we've also joined by Glengormley High School, and we're broadcasting live on bbc.co.uk/makeit, as well as on YouTube and Facebook Live. So, for our second Make It Super Assembly, we have a top chef, an award-winning businessman, a winner of Great British Menu, and a man who served his own rhubarb to Prince Charles. He's here to talk to us about the hospitality industry and setting up his own business, as well as how hard work and believing in yourself and what you do can help you make it. Please welcome Niall McKenna.
Thank you, thank you. Right, here we go. Hello, how are you doing? I said, my name is Niall McKenna. I'm the owner of, one of the owners, should I say, of James South Restaurant in Belfast. Really, I'm going to bring you through the beginning when I was your age at school. School I went to was a school called De La Salle. The reason I went to that school is purely because I did home economics, food. From a young age, I realised that all I wanted to do was cook. And I was very, very lucky because a lot of people nowadays don't know what they want to do. I mean, very, very early on, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So I went to this school, got into it, started really getting involved in food, and then I met my first teacher who really changed everything. It was a teacher called Mr. McCarry, who was my business study teacher. And he sort of opened my mind up to restaurants, food, money. Really important. And that's where it all started for me. And then after I left school, I went to work for Denad Rain and then worked for a guy called Paul Rankin. He's a well-known chef in Belfast, and that's probably the first stage of my life where everything changed. It's where I worked in the kitchen with professional chefs, motivated people, all from Belfast and surrounding areas, and everybody there had one thing. They wanted to do the best possible food with the local ingredients. And for Paul, it was just inspirational working with that man. So I worked for Paul for numbers of years, and then I decided I'm going to go to London. I have to travel. I have to go away for a while. So I got an interview, and at that time there was a guy called Mark Pierre-White, who was the #1 chef in the UK. Went over, borrowed a suit, borrowed a shirt, went over to Harvey's, sat in the restaurant waiting for Mark to arrive. 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, hour later, still wasn't there. Manager came up, Mark was out getting a suit fitted for his wedding, he won't be here. That was the first real down part of my life when it came to cooking. And I said to myself, what am I going to do? So I went back home for another year. Took me a year to get myself together, and really, because this guy was huge, he was massive, writing books, everything, he's like a rock star in our industry. So I went back, worked for Paul. Then a year later, Joanne, my wife now, who's really the boss of the company, we both went back to London. The key thing was I realised I had to surround myself with people who were going to motivate me, people who were there to improve themselves. And it's the easiest thing where everybody turns around and says, I can't do. At this point here, I was still very, very young. I was in my early 20s. I was in London, and I was passionate about what I wanted to do, but everybody else around me was passionate as well. And there was people who I worked with who went to university, some of us did in university, and then I realised, I was never, even at school, I knew I was never going to university. I had no interest in going to university. All I wanted to do was work. Work. And the key thing was, as long as it was based on food, I was happy. So in London, I met people there who really, from the very beginning, I believed in them, they believed in me, and it was just a join. And all of a sudden, they've become great chefs. I am who I am. I wouldn't say I'm a great chef, but I am who I am. But we all stay in contact, and we all develop our way through. And teamship and believe in yourself is what it's all about. And the key thing out there was so many people turned around and said, no, you're not going to do this here, not a chance. You're not going to survive in London. I did. I was there for 12 years. And I did the whole Michelin bit, all the rest of it, worked in hotels, worked with some Dean Carr. It was just an unbelievable amount of chefs I worked with. And the whole thing was they were all passionate. They all believed in what they were doing. So I made a decision to go back to Belfast. And the whole idea was open a restaurant. At this point, you had Dean's and you had Roscoff was still going. And all these restaurants are still going. But I said, I want to do something different. And the only person I knew in Belfast was Robbie Miller, who's now passed away, and Paul Rankin. So I came over. I sort of did odd jobs trying to find sites, raise money, get money together. Joanne was still in London, commuting back and forward and all the rest of it. And at that point then we found James Street South. James Street South, got the site on a back street, you know, fed the restaurant very, very cheaply, put linen on the tables, and all of a sudden people said, oh, it's a fine dining restaurant. The only reason there was linen on the table is because I couldn't afford decent tabletops. So linen was cheaper. And I put it on. It was like inside a sugar cube. It was all white. Contemporary Irish art on the walls, everything else. It looked beautiful. Business was great. We were flying, really, really doing well. Team around me, I had Stephen Tolman, who now is Ox, and you had Gareth McCahey, who was my sous chef, who was Muddler's Club. And these guys were the core team. Once again, I was trying to get back the same feeling around me, the same people around me. And we all, these three guys, three of us had nothing. We started off together, and they made James Street South what it is. We all worked as a team. We all worked together as one. And that's where the whole feeling of London was coming back into Belfast. And that's what I was trying to achieve within the restaurant. My whole thing is not, you know, I don't want accolades. All I want is to do good food and good training and train great chefs in Belfast. And that's what got me going every day, getting up. And don't get me wrong, some days it was a 6.5-day week. You were doing over 80, 85 hours. But it was my choice to do that there because it was my passion. And those weeks flew in. Those years flew in. So at the moment, we were going 13 years. You know, and that's what it was all about for me. Developing things on within our industry, within what I wanted to do within our restaurants. Then the recession came. And I made one decision in business. What are we going to do? If we kept James Street South the way it was, lights out. Then we decided we're going to expand. And everybody looked at me and said, you're mad expanding during a recession? So we expanded into the bar and grill. We then opened the cookery school. Then a few years later, we opened Hatskis and Cast and Crew. And to me, that's where it all came from. That's where the all management thing came through. And we were developing people on, developing chefs on. And the key people within that company are still with us. They are part of the company. But it's the belief in yourself to say you can do it. And that's one thing, at a very young age, at your age, a lot of people thought it was mad. You want to become a chef, what do you want to do that for? So it doesn't make a difference if you want to be a chef, a spark, a plumber, or anything else. The key thing is if you want to open your own job, without doubt you can do it. You can really get going. You know, the key thing is confidence in yourself, belief in yourself, and don't be afraid of hard work. You will, without doubt, fail. Guaranteed. I've had so many knockbacks, so many, I won't even go into how many mistakes I've made. I've made more mistakes than everybody else. And I've been, like everybody says you're a good chef, I've been bluffing for years. Believe it or not, it's all about pushing yourself on and saying what you want and what you want to provide. If you want accolades, you go for that there. If you want, in my personal belief, is a strong business, that is what I go for. And all I'm looking now is people around me who I can develop it on. And that's why we started up our apprenticeship scheme in James Street South. This is now our 3rd year. And all the chefs, bar one in James Street South, is the next apprentice. Some have got degrees, some have not got no degrees, some are dyslexic. Who cares? At the end of the day, these guys and girls are absolutely amazing. They knock it out of the park every day. They come into work on their days off. I said, what are you in here? I want to try something different. And these guys are only 17, 18, 19. And their passion, their belief. And these are guys just like you and girls, I mean, not like yous, of course, but like, you know what I'm saying? But they believe in what they're doing and they know where they want to go. But it's once again having the same people around you who believe in you, who are going to push you on. And the one thing that I say to everybody, and I'm just going to put this on at the end, but I'm going to do it now, is about asking questions, not being afraid to ask a question, putting your hand up. Because the person who doesn't put their hand up and wants to know that their question is the fool. That is the fool. The bottom line is the more you know, the more information you have, the further up the ladder you're going to get. And that is what it's all about. Structure, belief, pushing yourself on, and training. You mean, and I had to go back to college. I didn't want to get out of school. As soon as I started working, I realised I had to go back to college, back to Belfast Met, to learn, get my exams, so I can push myself on. Because in this industry, it's just not, you know, chefing. There's development chefs. There's Moy Park. There's all these massive, companies within Northern Ireland. There's tourism. You know, there's such a massive scope within our industry. You know, it's the biggest employer in Northern Ireland, bar none. You know, and that's where I'm trying to get our apprentices, where they understand that there, and we can develop them on as individuals. And even like this year, I decided, right, this year what we're going to do, because we're not expanding, this year I'm going to bring a massive team. We're going to get a big Airbnb, 6 rooms, 7 rooms, and every 2 days I'm flying my chefs, my waiters, my managers over, and all we're going to do, it's going to be really hard, we're just going to eat and drink in restaurants. Isn't that really hard? You know, that's what we're going to do because we believe in them, and by them seeing something different than what's in Belfast and getting their heads in a different space where then they're surrounded by the same people. And I'm having friends of mine who are unbelievably successful businessmen talking to them and having belief in them. And the belief, and I keep on using this word belief, because it's the easiest thing to knock yourself. Even if you're not academic based or whatever it may be, if you've got a good work ethic and you really want to do it, you'll do it. I really believe it. Some people here will have their own businesses. Some people here will try to have their own business. They will fail. So what? Get on with it. There's people I know who are friends of mine who've had their own businesses. They have failed. They have now working with other friends, and they are unbelievably good at their job. It's fine. It's okay to fail, as long as you get up and you keep going. And as I said, over the years, I've had so many upsets, but at the same time, you keep going on. Recessions, VAT man, tax man, wages, all these things you have to keep on pushing through, but understanding your business. And that's the key thing that I say to everybody who goes into business. If it's plumbing, you learn your books, you learn your skill, you learn off the best people. Don't bluff. Believe in what you're doing, but only surround yourself and find out who the best people are. Not necessarily go and work for your father's friend who's a plumber. You find who's doing the best apprenticeship and you do it. You know, and that's what it's all about. Believe in what you're doing and believe who can bring you on, and use the people around you. Use your contacts. Like, I mean, today I was giving out business cards to people purely because I said, if you want something, you have to step up and do it, because nobody is going to give it to you. And that is where the key thing within James Street South, and what I try to get around all the young kids. Like, I'm 45, I'm the oldest in the company. The average age in our company is probably about 19, 20, you know, and we've got over 80 staff working for me at the moment. And at the moment now, we've got a core team from every age who are absolutely so passionate. They're constantly their heads in the books, they're constantly developing themselves on. And that they didn't come to me that way. It's by surrounding yourself by the people who want to push you on. And that's the hardest point, to find those people who are going to push you on. So over the years, where are we going to go in the future? God knows. You don't know where it's going to happen, and you just push yourself on from there. But development is the key, where you have to keep on pushing yourself, keep learning, and keep looking at different things. So that's really the angle where in James Street South, where we're coming through as a company, me as an individual, even doing the Great British Menu and doing other TV bits and pieces. I mean, everybody says to me, what's the greatest accolade you ever had? Our apprenticeship is my greatest accolade, purely because I am training the next generation of businessmen, entrepreneurs, whatever it may be. Because I know there's people who have started with me who have now gone off and opened their own companies other than restaurants. So even though that's a small thing, you can always branch off into other things. You learn your skills, you go from there, and then after that you develop on. You know, so there we have. That's really the basis of where I'm coming from in business. And I'm looking at everybody out here, and there's, you know, he's all look really switched on there. I'm very, very mannerly, may I say, today as well. But all I'm saying to you guys is you have to have a belief, and don't let anybody put you down, because there's not people out there going to do it to you. Bottom line, you believe it, you're going to do it, you move on. And if you want to get into business, you try to come up with an idea. You develop that idea. It mightn't work, but you have to develop it on. And that is the key thing about business. Develop it on, keep pushing forward, knowing your figures, knowing your market, and keep concentrating on it. But training, training, training is the key thing. And at the same time, there's a couple of guys out here who have got questions for me. And who's the first questioner?
That's great. So thank you very much, Niall. Give him a round of applause. Okay, I think our first question is Ryan from Ashfield Boys.
Did you ever consider any other jobs other than being a chef? What was your backup plan?
No, I had no backup plan. It's not a straight answer. I had no backup plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I was very lucky. From an early age, I realised, like I was in the Scouts, and I remember cooking on a campfire, putting an oil drum into the ground, covered in charcoal, throwing a leg of lamb on it, and I was like 12, 13, and people were looking at me right in the head. I seen it in the book and went, that is what I want to do. And today, in Bar and Grill, all we're doing is cooking in charcoal. You know, we have gone full circle from being in the Scouts, you know, cooking in the middle of the field and food poisoning people. I don't know what I was doing, but I mean, at a young age, you were trying to do this here, and I was trying to push the boundaries even then with food, you know, and that's the bottom line.
Okay. So our next question is from Nathan from Glengormley High.
What route would you recommend if I can't study GCSE or A-level home economics?
What was that again, sorry?
What route would you recommend if I can't study GCSE or A-level home economics?
Get an apprenticeship. Get an apprenticeship. That's a key thing. Go back to the college, get an apprenticeship, bring yourself through your basic skills, and then go from there. You know, the college is there to work with you. And I am very pro college to learn the basic skills. The classics are what it's all about. The classics, learning how to make a roux, how to make the bechamel. You're never going to use it nowadays, but it's still the classic. You have to learn it. And then understanding, getting your hygiene and getting all your exams. So you get them first, plus at the same time, you're working within a restaurant. When I was at college, I was working at Roscoff. And I'm not being bad myself, but I was the best in the class. I was confident. I was the best. Purely because Paul Rankin, I was working with stuff in Roscoff. Turbot, halibut, lobsters, langoustines, scallops coming in their shell. Half the lecturers hadn't even seen it. They'd seen it in books and that's it. I was working with day in, day out. So I was going in there and I was like bouncing ahead. So the key thing is getting a good restaurant where you're going to get trained properly. That is the key thing. Finding out, going online, finding out what is the best restaurant in the area, and then going to meet them, talking to the chefs, and being nice. That's the key thing. Knocking on the door, be nice, be cheeky, get in there and ask the question.
Is that the best way to get an apprenticeship, to go straight into the...
Being realistic, there are certain restaurants who, being realistic, do apprentices, certain restaurants don't do apprentices. My view on an apprenticeship is you don't put them out the back picking salad or whatever it may be. The first thing you do with us is you make bread and make soufflés. Because you ask most chefs, make me bread, make me soufflé, they can't do it. So no matter what, all our apprentices, and if you go on my Instagram, you'll see one of our apprentices stand there with the biggest smile, and also the biggest focaccia I've ever seen in my life. So I don't believe he went by the recipe, because I think he added more yeast than he should have. But, and that's the key thing. So, that's really where we come from.
Okay. So our next question is from Sam from Ashfield Boys, who's definitely appropriately dressed for today.
What would make you give me a job?
Look at you. Come on. Who wouldn't give you a job? Yeah, that's mad. No, the key thing is about getting a job is, A, knocking on the door. Never, ever go for a job in a restaurant at their busiest time. So don't knock on the door at 11:15 looking to talk to the head chef, because he'll quite quickly turn and say, go away. So it's phone up, set an appointment, be there early, and walk straight in. Presentation, hair, brushed, all the rest of it. But the key thing is do your homework on the business. On the internet, look it up, find out who the head chef is, see who owns the company, what type of restaurant it is, how long it's been open, and then you go from there. People come into us for interviews and I say, so what do you know about the restaurant? And I get this blank look in my face and I go, dime bar. What am I going to do here? What can I do with this guy? You have to help yourself when you walk in. And even better, if you can go and eat in the restaurant, get your mum and dad to pay you to go in there and eat, say you've eaten in the restaurant. Because if somebody says they've eaten in our restaurant, then they know what type of food, the standard of food, and what we're trying to get out of it. And then all of a sudden, they can put their mark on it there and then.
Okay, great. So next question is from Connor from Ashfield Boys.
When you trained in London, were you ever homesick? And do you think it is important to experience work in another country?
Connor, I'm going to say something to you that I've never told anybody else. And this is probably because I'm here. I'm going to embarrass myself here. I'm going to get slagged to hell. When I first went to London, I remember crying down the phone to my dad and saying, I was like, Daddy, I can't do this here. This is unbelievably hard. It's unbelievably competitive. And my dad turned and said, if you want to come home, come home. And as soon as he said that there, I went, I'll never hear the last of it, so I can't go home. So I just buckled down and got on with it. And travelling to me, it's not, within Northern Ireland, within Ireland, you've got so many great restaurants. But to me, that's part of it. It's more the mindset. To me, it's like I love being with different people from different communities. I love being with people from different countries, different languages. Like there's nothing worse when you're talking to somebody in the kitchen who speaks French and no English, and I don't speak French, but we're both in the same section. Sign language is a great thing, That's where I came from, and that is me the whole thing about travelling. It's opening your mind to different things, different types of food, cultures, everything, and that's where our industry, my industry, comes into its own, where you can see different things and you can travel around the world very easily. Everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs to eat.
Okay, great. So our next question is from Sam from Glengormley High.
Hi, Sam.
How do you ensure you keep your skills up to date and current?
What was that again, sorry?
How do you ensure you keep your skills up to date and current?
The way I do it is at least once a year I go away and I have a thing called a stage. I'm 45 and I would go to different restaurants, wherever it may be, around the world, UK, London, wherever it may be, and I go and work in those restaurants. And you have to understand, I'm 45 and I'm working with guys at 19, 20, 21. It takes me about 4 days to get over it, physically, because I'm in pieces. But the key thing is, as you said, it's travelling. It's developing yourself on and developing your skills on and keeping yourself sharp, getting your head in the books. I'm not so much a fan of TV and Netflix and all that there, because everybody's got this impression of what chefs are. To me, the chef who shouts and balls and all the rest of it, as a rule in my career, I haven't really had it, only when I did something wrong. As somebody said, a friend of mine once said, what's the worst mistake you ever did in a restaurant? And he's making, say, chocolate brownies. I put salt in instead of sugar. That's the worst thing that's ever happened. What's the best thing that's ever happened? He didn't get caught. You know? So, you mean, that's the way you look at it. That's the only way you look at it. You think to yourself, what can I do to make myself better? So, you mean, certainly go on the internet, look up restaurants, look at guides, you mean, bloggers and stuff like that there. You don't take too much into that there. But TV, I've sort of parked to the side because, once again, it's good, but, you know, books are the key thing, and doing stages, going to knock on doors and see if you can work in restaurants part-time for nothing even. You know, because I've done it for many years where I worked for nothing, just going to see different styles of food. And that's the same in any background, because that means there's somebody who's hungry. So it's not just about cooking, it could be about bricklaying, anything. It's all about that there. Give them something for nothing, and you'll see if you like it or not.
How much do you look at the competition to see what they're doing? Their strategies as well?
Being realistic, you mean, you'd be a fool not to. You'd be a fool not to look at your competition. But within Belfast, you mean, especially in Belfast, there's so many restaurants now, and everybody says, you're not competitive with Michael Dean or Ox or whoever it mean, Danny, and all these different chefs who are great chefs. But the way I look at it is, you mean, Belfast is a very, very small place. It's tiny, you know, so we all have to work together. And, you know, and it's getting tourists in and having the same voice going, the same message going out. But don't get me wrong here, I still want to have the busiest restaurant going. And anybody said they don't want that there is a fool or lying, one or the other. But the key thing for me is, you mean, you always look at your competitors. You don't try to copy your competitors. You try to do something different, you know, and you try to push it on within the boundaries of what you want to do in your business. And also understanding what your market is. That's one of the most important things. Understanding what the tourists want, understanding what the local people want. Because trust me, they are two different things. You know, people travel all around Europe, and that's one thing about Belfast. We are great, people in Northern Ireland are great travellers. And if you asked me 12 years ago with people from Belfast about food, their knowledge was good. See now, it is seriously good. People are travelling, they're watching, should I say, cook programs and all the rest of it. But the bottom line is their knowledge, they understand what good service is, good food, and they expect that now on our doorstep. You know, because if you look at, you mean, you look at Belfast, you mean, you look at London's capital, then Edinburgh. After that there, and I've gone through the guides and I've looked at it, Belfast's number 3. You know, with Danny and Stevie getting an ox, and plus all the other accolades, and plus you've got so many chefs who from Northern Ireland originally, who are now coming back home, like Chris McGarn and Wyan Bryan. These guys are all coming back home now, so no matter what, the level's growing every month, every year. The standards are growing, and the quality of chef and the front of house is getting better. It is definitely getting better, and the passion's there as well.
What makes Belfast or Northern Ireland in general stick out? Is it produce? What's special?
The bottom line, I mean, I look at what we have here on our doorstep, and I would say 80 to 85% of everything any decent chef in Belfast or within Northern Ireland is local. So you're putting all the money back into the economy, you're keeping jobs going and all the rest of it. And that's great, that's brilliant, but to me the most important thing is the produce. And sometimes it is difficult because a lot of our project goes, especially our fish and our shellfish, will automatically go to France and go to Spain purely because they know our stuff is the best. And I'm not being biased, our stuff is the best. Our meat, our dairy, like there's one benefit of having lots of rain, green grass, so you're getting great quality meat, great quality produce, shellfish, fish and all the rest of it. And that is what makes my job 10 times easier. Working seasonal, working with small suppliers, and our suppliers are just knocking the back door and says, I've got this here, do you want it? And, you know, as long as it's, I mean, it's clean, it's tidy, and it's coming in a refrigerator van that got all our documents, of course you're going to take it on. And once again, you've automatically started another business because you're paying that person straight away. You're paying him, and he's got a business going now. So in total in James Street South, we probably have, I'd say, 75 suppliers. So that's 75 people who you're putting money into. They're paying their mortgage and everything else, and that's the same as our employees. You're providing them a wage so they can have their mortgage or save for a house or a car. So to me, there's a big responsibility in that there.
Okay, so how did you get, I've got a question in here from Facebook. How do you get the money together to open your first restaurant? Where do you start once you realise, you know, I'm chefing for a while, I love this, I love food, I want to, you know, I want to go self-employed, I want to own my own business?
We were in London, we moved houses, we saved and saved, bought a flat, and then we got money that way there, and we sold it, and we came back to Belfast. Went into a bank, sitting there in front of all the bank managers. They were looking at me and Joanne are sitting there. There's 4 in front of us. I'm having a meltdown going, we're not going to get this money. My dream's not going to happen. The next thing, I'm knocking on the door, came in. This guy walked in who was their senior boss. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. He just walked in. He says, "You're Niall McKenna." He says, "I had in your restaurant there a couple of months ago." He says, "Yeah, in London." He says, "Yeah, really good." Give him the money. That's how I got my money. I was very, very lucky. You know, that's how virtually I came off. But in general, it's saving. And no matter what, anybody who opens a business, it's a massive gamble. Because if you're going to put your house on the line, you can lose your house. So anybody who opens a business, I think, fair deal to you, good luck to you. But you have to know what you're doing. You have to know the pitfalls. You have to have people to advise. You have to have good mentors. You know, and it's people who have, it's not about talking to your dad and your dad's never run a business. You have to be realistic. It's talking to somebody who has run a business, who you trust what they say. And that's the key thing. And over the years, I've built like about 4 or 5 people around me who I would bounce stuff off, who, if they said to me it was a bad idea, don't do it now. 9 times out of 10, I won't do it. But it's the whole thing. It's just about getting money together. It's not making that mistake. Is it the wrong site? Is it the wrong business? Is it the wrong time for the business? You know, look at your market, look what's going on, and think, how much money do I need to survive for me as a living, as in my mortgage, my house, my family, but also where you can go from there. How can I develop my business on? How can I grow my business? And that's the key. How are you going to grow what you're going to do? You know, and it's, you're looking at the whole aspects. And the key thing is, the secret is profitability. Getting over your figures and making money. You see all these guys open businesses in 2 seconds they buy a flash car and you're going, oh my God, here we go. That's not the way you go. You make your business strong. You put the money back in again. You make it strong. And that's it. And then, like, I'm still driving about in a banger, so, you know, I'm not a car person, say nothing, you know. So there we have it. So that's roundabout. It's just save, 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 and then get a bank manager with a bad memory. You know?
Okay, our next question is from Ross, just over here.
How did you get the money together to open your first restaurant, and how much do you think you've invested in your businesses?
Right, anyway, we've already answered that question. It was through the banks to a degree. We still put a lot of money down ourselves, put a lot on the line. Over the years, millions. That's the bottom line. We have invested serious money in all our restaurants. Every few years, you're doing a refit, that's 150, 200,000, and that's only in a restaurant. You know, so you think of like Bill Woolsey in The Merchant, Hart Hastings and his new ventures, they're multi-million-pound, investments. So no matter what, anything you do in our industry, it ain't cheap. From a chair, average chair is £300, your plates, your glasses, and these things are constantly coming on. You know, so somebody knocks a light bulb, breaks a lift, call-out fees, all the rest of it. You know, so even when people say I'm opening a business, to me, the way I look at it now, and this is to me one of the most important things, I'm about to open a business. What is the, after I pay the business off, what is the running cost of that business? How much does it cost me to run the business? Lights, gas, electricity, breakages, all the rest of it. Because that's where the real cost comes in. Not actually fitting it out, it's the running the thing and making sure you're profitable.
Okay. Thanks very much, Niall. I think that's all we've got time for this Super Assembly. Today's programme will be available to view online with lots of other resources at bbc.co.uk/makeit. A big thank you to the schools here today, especially to Ashfield Boys High School for hosting us, and of course to Niall McKenna. Thanks for watching and goodbye.